Greetings to you all, and thank you very much for joining us in tonight's edition of Viewpoint on DBS Television. It's always a pleasure having you and wishing you all a Merry Christmas in advance. In tonight's edition, we are going to be talking about single parenting and the challenges or the difficulties that these parents do face. And to discuss about this, we are having as guest with us Rahul Ule Abia. She is a lecturer. She will be accompanied naturally by Mange Fenashus. Rahul Ule Abia, good evening and thank you very much for being part of us tonight.
Thanks very much for the invite. I'm grateful to be here. It's
a pleasure having you. Mange Fenashus, good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Vanessa. Good evening to Rahul Ule Abia, and good evening to our viewers, those who are watching us from the house. Want to wish them a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year in advance.
And a prosperous New Year in advance. Viewpoint is a debate program divided into two parts. Let us take the first part of the show. Is single parenthood a handicap for self-realization? Rahul, I'll begin with you. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. Fenashus?
No, Vanessa.
No. And does this state of life have any impact in the society? Fenashus?
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does. Rahul?
Yes.
Yes, it does. Let us have the debate. In the first question, is single parenthood a handicap for self-realization? Rahul, you think that yes, it is a handicap. So how is that, or how is it?
You know, being a single parent is something that is many other girls or boys have not thought of it as a psychological issue. And it comes with a lot of, you know, sacrifices that you need to make. At the point that you're going in for a child and you're psychologically ready for that child, yeah, you could go there and all of that, but it would still make you not to be able to, it would stop you from achieving some things that you wanted to achieve for yourself. However, you have achieved one thing, the child, but you're not going to achieve other things, because at a time where maybe an opening is coming somewhere for a job, you have a baby of 1 year, you have a baby of 6 months, you have a baby of maybe 3, 7, or 8, even 10 years old. Because we start thinking that our children are maybe reasonable at the age of 16. That is when you can start letting them be on their own. But at the start of it, it stops. So you cannot achieve anything. It just handicaps the realization of your own projects. No doubt you realize other projects with time. Time will heal it all, that's all what we say. But at the time where you wanted to do it, you will not do it. Now, for those other parents who go into this affair and they're not even ready, some of them have the opinion that, okay, this guy, if I get pregnant, this guy is going to marry me, or if she gets pregnant, she's going to be my wife, and all of that. Because you have some men who think that because they impregnate a woman, the woman is going to stay with them. It's not just one way. It is a two-way thing. So men just think that, no, this one now, she's getting pregnant, she's going to marry me, she'll be my wife. She wouldn't be your wife until you decide it, until you're compatible. Now, if you're not psychologically ready for all of that, it will just traumatize you. From one end to another, you will not be able to meet up with anything because you have a baby around you. That is why you have some, I don't know what I'll call them, what are they, monsters who just women who take off the features. Some of them will even have their babies and they look at the child and they don't want to even see the child, because every time they see the child, she reminds me of the father. And you have these fathers who just look at their children, she reminds me, or he reminds me of the mother. You know, it is just that kind of, it stops you from growing, it blocks you, it ends you from evolving. So it's just possible that single parenting is a handicap.
It's a handicap to
self-realization.
And a lot of parents nowadays, they do not accept or see into it that the coming of that baby has stopped them from achieving one thing or the other.
Yes, some of them don't even see that, because at a time where you are glad that your baby has been born, you don't see the pain, you don't see the lack, you don't see the hold up, nothing. But when you sit someday somewhere and you look at your friends, you are in the same milieu, who have attained what you two were about to attain, you start saying, oh, I didn't. But you know, you always consider yourself that I have my child. Yeah, you always say, no, my baby's around, so I am consoled with it. But then many parents don't look at it as a hold up. They don't see that single parenting stops them. Most particularly those who do not have helps. I will not call them, I'll use the word helps in quotes, because we have mothers. Me, I'm a single mom, and I'm proud to be one, and I'm glad to be a single mom anyway. And I have my mom, I have my sisters and my brothers. So my child is surrounded with people who show her this love. They are flexible people, they're sensitive, you know, there is this warmth around her. And it becomes a problem for those who don't have this kind of environment. They're all single from beginning till the end. So they don't have somebody they can send their children or their child to, or they can even turn to. By the time you start leaving your child with the neighbor start grumbling, and with a lot of perversity, you know, before you know it, somebody's raping your child and you never know about it. So those are the kind of things, it just blocks you from going. You know, when we're even talking about this, at the end of the day, there is fear. A single parent,
there's a lot of fear.
A lot of fear.
So what could you advise then these single parents that we do have, be it the men or the women? What could you tell them in such a situation? If you find yourself in a situation where you are going to be a single parent, what are the type of attitudes you should develop?
Oh, you always have to stay positive. It's true that it's a difficult decision to make, staying positive. But you know, it's a good thing. We are Africans, and we don't follow some kind of beliefs. We don't hold it. If you're a single parent and you know you went to school, take some books and read. A single parenting. If you don't want to read books, listen to good music. If you don't want to listen to good music, take out a day, go to the nightclub, dance yourself off. Yes, go to the nightclub.
And dance yourself
when you're pregnant, at the time you're pregnant, you're not advised to drink alcohol. But if you have, how do they call it?
The urge?
Desire, the urge for it, take a glass. You don't need to make it a habit. Just take a glass and drink a glass. You see, and end there. If you have the urge. And for single parenting, when you know that you're going to be a single parent, at any point in time when you know you're not married to a man, and even when you're married, even you're a single parent, so just do what your heart asks you to do. Don't overdo it.
Don't overdo it.
Please, then don't stop. Talk to your baby. Talk to your baby. Because if you don't talk to your baby, we're told that when you talk to your child, they feel you, they understand you. You remind them of who you are, where you're coming from. I wouldn't tell you a lie. Your baby will come out being a wonderful child. Truly. True. Talk to your child.
Thank you very much, Rahel Uleabia. Mangavenashus, you rather think that single parenthood is a handicap, is not rather a handicap to self-realization?
Yes, Vanessa, when we talk of single parenthood, it is a phenomenon that is not strange in our African context. In the Western world, they will tell you that it is abnormal, you know, to give birth out of, you know, before marriage. But in African context, experience has proven that that is part and parcel of our culture, having a child before marriage. If there's one thing that we talk about nature is, nature gives every man, practically every man and every woman.
Is it part and part of our culture? I don't get to understand.
When I say part and parcel of our culture, it's already part and parcel of us, because it is no longer strange.
Is it the way society has made it to be, or is that how we used to be before?
That is the way society that is the way our society has evolved. Our society has evolved in such a way that having a child, you know, being a single parent is no longer strange. Because, like I was saying, getting married is not given to everybody. Having a child, naturally is like everybody is, you know, a potential father or a potential mother, naturally, everything being equal. But then getting married is not open to everybody. And when we talk of self-realization, is like realizing your dream, coming up to what you wanted, you know, making yourself, you know, useful. That's self-realization. And having a child, I don't see it as a hindrance, as a handicap to self-realization. Everybody make mistakes, and they tell us in our society that, remember, in our African context, a bastard does not exist. A child belongs to the family. That is why most of these cases, you know, in a family, when the girl has a child in a family, that child hardly calls the girl a mother. Most of them, they used to call them auntie, because it was abnormal to have two mothers in a house. The mother was your grandmother, and your mother becomes your auntie
or sister.
Or auntie or sister, exactly. And in most cases, our parents used to accept them. That's what I mean. We don't accept children born out of wedlock as bastards in our society. No, they are not. They are part of the family. And when such a situation happens, we must acknowledge here, Vanessa, that is not the ideal. You know, to have a child out of wedlock is not the ideal. It is an unfortunate situation that has come, or that comes. And like I said, everybody makes a mistake. When you make such a mistake, when it happens, when it has occurred, once you start fighting with the, you know, with the mistake, once you start not able to accept it as it happened. Yes, I am in this situation. Once you start fighting with it, you will have problems. It would then become a handicap. If you accept that I made a mistake, it happened, and because it happened, there is nothing I cannot do. There's nothing I can do any longer. The only thing is I bring my child to birth, because nature has it just 9 months, and you give birth to a child. And because we you know, we grew up in a family context, family circle, like Ryle said, you have a family that gives that love. You see, that child wouldn't stop you from continuing. You know, because we have children who give birth in Form 5, Form 3, Form after go back to school. If you make it that it was an error, go back to school and continue. If you accept that it was an error, and like every error, you know, error is something that you accept that I failed here,
mistake,
and
I need to,
like St. Augustine says, there is more grace in rising than in falling. You failed, and once you accept that I failed, the grace comes in when you make an effort to rise. Make the effort, pick up your life from the pieces where it got broken, and continue. In that case, you will realize what you did not. I don't think that there is any profession that will tell you that you cannot do it, or that you cannot continue into that profession if you already have a child, except you want to become a nun or a monk or a consecrated life. And in consecrated life, childhood, you had sacrificed that. We will not say you will have the childhood when you become monk. No, for those cases, childhood, or talking about a child, is no longer in your in your project. But then, if you really think that you wanted to become a normal father, a normal mother, having a child, accept it and continue your life from there. And it will not stop you. If you wanted to become a teacher, you will still become a teacher. You wanted to become a journalist, you wanted to become a military, you will still become. So I don't think that we can take it as such. Vanessa, these are most of those issues when we think that it would you know, prevent us from realizing our dream. Immediately a woman takes in the option that comes in now would be abortion. Because you now think that once I will give birth to this child, who will take care of this child? Who would father this? Who will take the responsibility? All this put together, you find yourself leaning towards the unworthy act, which is abortion, which is tantamount to killing. Vanessa, we've had women who happen to have, you know, have only one chance to give birth, and they are childless today. Not because God made them childless, it was because they ran into such unhealthy act of abortion. And that was the only opportunity that they had. I have a friend who shared her experience with me. She was almost at the verge of committing an abortion. And what stay, what kept her away was just that shy, all of a sudden she became shy. When she came in, she was already in a hospital, in a health structure. She became, that she was not feeling comfortable with the doctor, a male doctor, who asked her to undress. She could not find herself undressing, and she refused and turned back. And like God would have it, that is her only child that she has till today. What happened if she had aborted? So we just need to accept it and say that it has happened, and I will continue my life from it. It is also an advice to parents.
Single parents?
No, to parent.
All right.
If your child should go that way, it doesn't mean that you should reject the child. We don't know the circumstances under which they surrounded the child. Ryle said most parents, when you look at that child, it reminds you of the parent. We have girls who happen to have been pregnant they were raped, and they happen to be pregnant. What happens? Must you commit abortion because you were raped? It has happened. It happened. Try to work now on your psychology to accept the situation, because you can just ask a question. If your mother had aborted you, we must accept, like a parent, there is no parent who would say that child upbringing is an easy task. That's a lie. It is a task. For us Africans, it is 20-year plus commitment, because we have children who are 20 years and above, and they are still under the protection, under the care of their parents. So once you are engaging into child, consciously or unconsciously, it is a 20-year plus commitment. And once it happens, you must accept that it is a responsibility I am into already. And like they say, difficulty is the test of manhood or of maturity. If you don't experience difficulties, you are not yet mature. And I think that those who have single parents, Vanessa, it should instead be a springboard, because you calculate. You are no longer depending on anybody. Who are you looking forward to? And it will instead push you to put in an extra
as a challenge. As a challenge.
Yes, a challenge that you have to overcome. It pushes you to put in an extra mile, because you must, survive. This child must. So you don't have anybody you are looking up to take care of. So in that case, you give birth to the child and just sit and fold your arms because you already have a child. What are you going to eat? And
most especially to those women who their parents or the author of the father
will not even accept.
Will not accept.
Those are the cases. You have no option. You have to suffer. You have to build up the future of that child. And in that case, that gives you instead, as a booster, it gives you more strength to work for, because this child must suffer. You must bring this child to life. This child must not suffer. You must bring the child to the world, and the child must live.
Thank you very much, Mange Venatius. In the second part of the show, or the second question, does this state of life have any impact in the society? Rahul Uliabia, you think that the society is being affected in one way or the other?
In every aspect, every way. Okay. Politically, socially, economically, it comes with a lot of challenges. The answers are very interesting when he was saying it. When you have a child, it gives you the joy to want to make that child become a better person. Yes, of course. And that's why you forgo so many things. So you stop living. You stop existing. Whether Venatius likes it or not, you stop. I'm saying it from the horse's mom, the horse itself, and I'm producing it out. Because at one point in time, I had a friend who always say, you don't start remembering that picking them. I always say picking them because I have my nieces, my nephews. They're my children.
They're your children.
Yes, I have one, yes, but then I have other children I have to take care of. So at every point in time where I have an extra change in my pocket, I just start imagining that, oh, Sky does not like eating okra today, and Grandma has cooked okra. I just need to buy her fish, you see. And Zoe doesn't want to eat, I just think all of those things. Now, I didn't think anything about myself. I stopped, you understand? So economically, it weighs on me. Economically, it weighs on the society. On most cases, many of these parents are not working. Many, whether we like it or not. You have more young girls who are single parents. They're lucky to have their moms and their dads around. But those ones who are not working have the trauma of their life. Because at home, not only have they become a responsibility for their parent, their children, to their child. Now they have to take responsibility.
So that's added responsibility.
Yes. So when it's economically, you see it's clean and clear. They need to work hard. they need to make more money. So if most of them haven't the full education that some of us are lucky to have, because you have had baked education where you say they just have ordinary levels, they start looking for menial jobs, and they can't even stand for those menial jobs at the time that they become beggars, because they can't even state the fact that they're human beings, they have rights. They start begging, where if you give me this one, even they are paid 25,000 or 30,000 because they want to have even that extra one to buy okrika for their children, have some small biscuits for their babies. You see, now you look at it socially. Single parenting, it becomes a psychological problem for some girls. You're raped. Vanessa said something now, you're raped. So must you about? Haha. Penasus, let's be real. Come to earth and look at these things face to face. Can you really imagine you have 4 boys who mounted you, and they did it in a very rough way on your body, and you just look at your body, it's filthy, and a baby is produced out of it? Is it real? Can you really smile at that child? If that child is not taken out of your way, I tell you the truth,
you need an extra
mother.
mile,
It takes extra care for that you in person to accept the fact that, okay, you have been raped, so what? This baby is my gift. No. Now you start wondering, who of the 4 guys is the father? Because it's one spermatozoid that fertilizes the egg, and not 4. You start wondering, who is the father? Yes, you're single parenting. It takes a lot.
At a certain point in time, the child wants to know who is my father.
And you start telling the child, I was raped. How? What happened? You start explaining a long line of stories. No, it takes a lot of courage. Yes, we take a lot of psychological.
That is the courage. That is the courage we are saying here, that it doesn't matter what happened. It happened already, and you can't turn back the hands of the clock.
Okay.
Whenever that child would ask you, who is my father, and you think that you will cover up the child, that is already the second wrong, and 2 wrongs can never make it right.
Now I'm going to explain myself. Why I'm trying to say that,
it depends on the age of the child.
Yes.
If the child has already reached a certain age, charity demands that you explain the situation to the child, that you see, you were a product of an unhealthy act that happened to me. It was an unfortunate situation.
And so I don't even know your father. Frank
and sincere. Okay. If you hide it, you will never have a clear conscience. When that child would ever learn that you deceived him or her, that child will never forgive you.
Now, I agree with you, Vena. Where I'm coming from is the fact where you say, okay, she gets pregnant and then she doesn't commit the abortion. Let's forget about it. I may be for it because I'm praying that Cameroon legalizes it. And if the doctors do it right,
legalizes abortion.
Yes, if the doctors
legalizing abortion in case of rape.
No.
Abortion,
in case of rape, it is accepted. In case of rape, the hospital does it.
Abortion.
Venasius.
Yes.
In case of rape, it is done in the hospital.
Yes.
Let's forget about it. But now, in a place where that child is born, because you say that it should not be performed, and this baby is born, and you tell this child that you're a product of rape, it doesn't matter how much love you have shown this child, but you have broken something out of this child's mentality, and that is where you have a problem. Because no, on a serious note, single parenting is a tough job. If you are not psychologically ready, you cannot psychologically feed this child. Now you take your time. It doesn't matter how you came. All that matters is that we love you.
You are already there.
No, we love you. Let's not say you're already there. That looks a little aloof. We love you. I mean, those are the impacts. You are the single parent here. This child goes to school, and the father and mother of the other child comes and drops the child off, maybe in a car, and you come on your Okada. No doubt, if you're telling this child, I don't have the means and all of that, I talk to my daughter. My daughter is my friend. There are days when I tell her, I don't have money, Mama, so I don't know, I cannot buy this. I won't be able to buy it. And there are days she even starts saying, and she just looks at my countenance and say, Mom, I know you don't have money. Don't worry. When you have money, you buy it. Because you talk. I am lucky my child was not born out of an unfortunate situation. But let's imagine all the girls whose children were born out of that unfortunate sin. How do they live? First, they have the stigma of having been raped. Two, they'll send it down to their children. Let's not even look at that one. That one is an exceptional case. Let's look at the case where this girl gets pregnant knowing that this boy is going to marry me. And out of nowhere, he jilts her and disappears into thin air. The girl has she remains there and cannot carry that cap alone. You know, Vena? So economically, socially, it takes a lot. You know, you stop having friends because you have a baby here. You stop, Vanessa. You have your child. All I think about, I'm going home for I don't meet friends again for a beer. I don't go out to nightclubs again because I don't have that space. I need to run back home to catch up with my baby.
All right.
You are perfectly right. But the situation here is we must weigh between your responsibility and you deciding whether you want to go along with your friends. You are no longer in the same, you don't have the same responsibility like your friends. So you cannot expect to be on the same platform with the girls or with your friends. If your friends cannot accept, or if your responsibility cannot permit you meet up with your social activities, it is just part of that responsibility that I said you need to accept that this is the situation I am in. When we talk about whatever situation that happened, it is enough to tell the child that really, that's why I said it depends on the age of the child. Explain to the child that I can't really say who your father was. It doesn't mean that I was frivolous. It doesn't mean that I was, careless, wayward. No, but this is the situation that happened.
That is what you're saying now.
And to me, it depends on the way you put it to the child.
Anyway, that's
to me,
it's all about dialogue.
To me, it was the way God had to give you through to me.
Yes.
And that way you came into life. And for that reason, I love you as God gave you to me. That child will never hate you. But if you play tricks with the child and to think that you would let the child knows that there are cases where you struggle to abort and the child refuses.
All right.
Of course.
So what we want to indicate here
is
what we want to indicate here is having a child out of wedlock. The impact is there in society, like she says.
Most of those children grow up here. I'm not cutting you short. Most of those children grow up here. They are very judgmental and very selective.
Of course.
Single parent children.
Yes.
They are so selective and very judgmental.
Yes.
Because at every point they are kind of like alert.
Of course. And in that case, like they say, difficulties opens so many opportunities to you. A child who was pampered by both parents doesn't stand upright. But the positive effect, yes, that's why I'm rounding up here. The positive effect of that state is that such a child knows that I have no excuse to fail my mother. I have no excuse to let down my mother. And in such a case, that child stands on his feet and the child becomes, a reference point.
Anyway, such children who know that they have no excuse to fail their parents is because their mothers or their fathers have made them to understand
that the situation where they are.
Yes, they have to accept it. Thank you very much, Rahel Leabia, for coming.
Thank you. Glad.
I wish we had more time to talk about this because it's
really,
so vast.
It's a big topic, and I'm glad that I was even able to share this one.
Manga Benashus, hope to have you tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Tomorrow is Christmas.
Of course.
And so,
it's Merry Christmas.
Yes. So you wish
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all in DBS here, and most particularly Merry Christmas to my wonderful daughter, my one and only apple that I have, Nora Sky, to her nieces and her nephews, my sister Mboya, my brother Mboya, Daniel, Therese, Agatha. Oh, there are just so many of them. And all to my friends and all everybody who is going to be watching the program. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all of you. That was it for today's edition. Thank you very much for watching. Take the rendezvous tomorrow. It will be another exciting moment because we will all be joyous and happy to have you again. Do stay tuned and stay blessed. Goodbye.